Hello everyone, welcome to the election feature. Today has been very interesting and with the election just around the corner. We will give you our personal commentary, we'll leave it to our host Bray to bring you latest developments.
Moving on to the mainland, we have the three coastal states of Washington, Oregon, and California, making up a whopping 74 total electoral votes. These states have a history of being at least reliably left-leaning. But let's see how they're polling in this highly contested Trump versus Harris race. In Washington, the most recent poll from Public Policy Polling shows Harris beating Trump by a margin of +4. Even without this poll, Washington hasn't voted Republican since the 1980s, and Trump didn't perform well in this state in 2020. So we can confidently mark it as solid blue on the map. In Oregon, the most recent poll paints a different picture than what we saw in Washington. The poll from Hoffman Research Group shows Harris leading Trump by a slim margin of +5. This is surprising, especially considering Biden's +16 margin in 2020. Looking further back, the last Republican Oregon voted for was Reagan almost 40 years ago. It'll be interesting to see what happens here in the next few weeks and on Election Day, but for now we'll mark it as leaning Democrat on our map. California is the most secure of these three states. Just looking at 538's polling average, Harris has a lead of +23.9. The most recent poll shows a similar margin, with Harris leading Trump by +23, 61% to 38%. So we can safely add California's 54 electoral votes, the most of any state, to Harris's tally. Next up is the highly contested state of Nevada. Even though Trump didn't win this state in 2016 or 2020, and Harris currently leads by +0.5 in the latest average, this is the first state where she seems to be making a comeback. The most recent poll has Trump tied with Harris, but the previous poll shows him leading with +1. Normally, I would classify Nevada as a toss-up because of how close the race is, but with Trump's +1 margin, we'll tilt it in his favor. Next is the usual solid red western bloc of Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, and Montana. The most recent poll in Idaho shows Trump leading by +29. In Utah, Trump leads by +32 in the latest poll. Wyoming, the most conservative state in the country, shows Trump with a +41 lead, according to Zogby Strategies. In Montana, Trump leads by +15. Even without these large margins, these states have been Republican strongholds for over 20 years, making them all solid red. Now we come to Arizona, our second battleground state this election cycle. In 2020, Biden flipped this state from Trump with a +0.31 margin. However, Arizona has only voted Democrat twice in the last 50 years. The most recent polling average shows Trump leading Harris by +0.5. The last poll shows an even larger lead for Trump with a +2 margin. This makes Arizona another state leaning Republican. Colorado and New Mexico are our last two Western states. Both states have reliably voted Democrat since Obama's first campaign in 2008, and Trump's performance worsened in both between 2016 and 2020. As of today, the most recent poll in Colorado has Trump trailing by 10 points, 50% to 40%. In New Mexico, the most recent poll from Redfield and Wilton Strategies has Harris ahead by +7. If either state ends up being closer than expected, it will probably be New Mexico, especially considering how close it was before Biden dropped out. Just for reference, the last poll with Biden had him leading by only +1. For now, we'll mark both states as likely Democrat. Moving on to the South, one of the biggest and most important regions in the U.S., we begin with Texas, which has 40 electoral votes. Many on the left have hoped for a blue Texas, but trends this cycle have made some question whether it will happen anytime soon. The most recent poll from Emerson College shows Trump leading by +3. It seems to be getting closer with each poll. Personally, I don't think it will end up this close, especially since polls just a few weeks ago had Trump winning by margins of +8 and +10. But for now, with a +3 margin, we'll call Texas a lean Republican state. Oklahoma is another solid Republican state, with the most recent poll from Sooner Poll showing Trump ahead by +16. Arkansas and Louisiana are also traditionally safe Trump states. The latest poll in Arkansas shows Trump ahead by +32, and in Louisiana he leads by +15. This makes both states safely Republican. Next are Mississippi and Alabama, another pair of solid red states. The most recent poll in Mississippi from Echelon Insights shows Trump ahead by plus 18, similar to his 2020 margin of plus 16.5. This makes Mississippi a safe Trump state. In Alabama, the most recent poll shows Trump with a plus 20 lead, so we can also mark Alabama as a safe Trump state. The next state is Florida. Florida has seen one of the biggest shifts in recent election cycles, moving from a highly contested battleground state to showing increasing Republican support. The latest poll shows Trump leading by plus 4, 51% to 48%. A 4-point margin is closer than most expected, but for now, Florida's 30 votes lean toward Trump. Next is Georgia, one of the closest states in the 2020 election. The latest average shows Harris barely ahead with plus 0.3, but the most recent poll has Trump leading by plus 1. Democrats haven't carried Georgia since Jimmy Carter, and based on current polling and how close it was 4 years ago, it seems unlikely that Harris will be the one to change that. With the plus 1 margin, we'll classify Georgia as another tilt Republican state. South Carolina, unlike its northern neighbor, is not a close race. The most recent poll from Emerson College shows Trump ahead by 14 points. Trump also won the state by a double-digit margin in 2020, and based on current polls, he's on track to do it again, making South Carolina a safe Republican state. Next are Tennessee and Kentucky, another pair of nearly guaranteed Trump states. The latest poll in Tennessee shows Trump with an expected plus 26 lead. In Kentucky, Trump leads by a similar plus 28 margin. Both states can be classified as solid red. Lastly, we come to North Carolina, a close battleground state this cycle. Despite voting for Trump in 2016 and 2020, the most recent average shows Trump leading by plus 0.8. The latest poll gives him a plus 3 margin, so we'll classify North Carolina as leaning Republican. Now we move on to Virginia and West Virginia. Virginia has turned out to be a lot closer than expected this cycle. The most recent data shows a race that is neck and neck. I think he would have stood a chance, but it doesn't seem like he's going to win the state. On the other hand, he is likely to win North Carolina. North Carolina was one of the few swing states that went to Donald Trump in 2020, as well as in 2016, but people believe it will go to Trump by a narrower margin in 2024. In fact, the polls show Trump leading by about 7%, less than a percentage point in North Carolina, but most recent polls have Trump in the lead. One factor that might be holding him back is Mark Robinson, the candidate for governor. He is very unpopular in the state and is likely to lose, which could drag Trump down on the ticket. However, I don't think that will happen because down-ballot candidates don't usually affect those at the top of the ticket. It's typically the top-of-the-ticket candidates who influence the down-ballot ones. That's what many people were concerned about with Joe Biden running, etc. But in any case, it seems like North Carolina will go to Donald Trump, bringing him 10 points ahead of Harris. Now we have Wisconsin, which the betting markets currently give a 56% chance of going to Harris. It used to be one of the closest states in terms of polling, but now it seems to be breaking in favor of Kamala Harris. Polls show Harris leading by about 1.5 percentage points, which is a pretty significant margin in a swing state, so we'll give Wisconsin to Harris, making it a tied election. At this point, Pennsylvania, with its 19 electoral votes, essentially decides the election. Whoever wins Pennsylvania will likely win the election overall. But just in case one of the other states, like Georgia or Michigan, goes differently, we also have to consider Nevada and Arizona. Both states are important in this election. While they might not matter in this current scenario, they could play a crucial role in others, so it's worth keeping track of them. They typically vote similarly. Remember, in 2016, they voted slightly differently. But in 2020, both went to Biden. In 2024, both states have shown similar odds of going to Trump, and their Senate races also went to Democrats. Nevada does have a Republican governor, but in the midterms, Democrats generally won in both states.
Now, it seems Trump will win both Nevada and Arizona. Over the past week, he gained percent of 3 in the oath in Nevada and percent of 5.5 in Arizona. Arizona is more likely to go to the Trump, but Nevada still leans in his favor, bringing him to 268 electoral votes. Finally, we come to the Pennsylvania, which is particularly the state that will decide the election. Pennsylvania is extremely close. If you are looking for fun, nail-biting election, this one won't disappoint. As of now, the polling average in Pennsylvania is a tie, but in the most recent polls, 3 out of 4 show Trump in the lead. It seems both Trump and Harris are gained ground, probably because of RFK-Jr. dropping out and endorsing Trump, which is likely to shift more votes to Trump. Harris might still be experiencing a slight convention boost, but moving forward, the debates will likely have the most significant impact on the polls. Many people believe Harris will win the debate, but they forget that Trump has a lot of experience in presidential debates. The last time Harris participated in a presidential debate, she lost to Tulsi Gabbard, so it is very possible Trump could win this debate, which could give him the edge in Pennsylvania. Looking at the betting odds, Trump leads with a percentage of 54, almost percent of 55 chance of winning Pennsylvania, which would give him the state and ultimately the election. With a projected result of 278 to 251, this is what many people are predicting as final outcome. If you want more of this, making sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for your watching. See you soon.